Hello, my name is Rupert Hoogewerf, and I'm the Chairman-in-Chief Researcher of the Hurun Report. Now, the other day, I was inviting the heads of China of several of the Hurun Global 500 most valuable companies in the world. And as I was doing the invitations, I had quite a startling finding, I suppose, which is that a lot of these Global 500 companies are incredibly well embedded into China. And there are also an awful lot of them who, whilst they might be incredibly valuable companies in their own right, have a very, very small footprint in China. And so that started making me ponder the question, which are actually the largest foreign companies in China? And that's how this sort of list came about at the beginning. So I started by asking my friends in the American Chamber of Commerce or the European Union Chamber of Commerce or the British Chamber and various other friends from lots of different companies and countries. And basically, I started putting together a list of those companies which are really doing stuff in China, doing it really, really deeply. And there's a massive difference here. And so I then came up with a methodology whereby fundamentally I was trying to work out which companies are paying the biggest tax, but you can't get that data. So in the end, I went to their annual reports and I dug up the companies that sort of have large amount of sales in China and a large number of employees in China. So sales, obviously, it's very directly correlated to taxes paid. And then number of employees obviously is great also for the country because it solves employment issues. So I came up with my top 100 list, and I'm delighted today to be putting it out in Guangzhou at the Global Investment Promotion Conference for the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macao, Greater Bay Area. So that's the event that we're putting it out at, and formally launching the 2022 Hurun Hurun largest foreign and Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwanese companies in China, this list. So I think it's a really interesting list. It's pretty original. And if you look at their total contribution, for example, these just 100 companies have contributed over $1 trillion worth of sales in the last year. 100 companies. I mean, that's a massive amount. And for China, that effectively breaks down to 7% of China's GDP. Between them, these 100 companies have 3 million employees, and that doesn't include all their supply chains as well. So they're pretty, impressive companies. So the largest foreign and Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwanese companies in China today, well, number one is Foxconn, and they're the key supplier for Apple's. They make the Apple phones here in China. They have, can you believe it, 1.3 trillion renminbi worth of sales in China last year, according to their annual report. They have over 750,000 employees in China. So it's a massive company. Number two is VW. Apple overtook and General Motors to break into the top three. Did you know that Apple in China do something like $80 billion worth of sales? So, I mean, it's a pretty substantial business in China. So that gives you a little flavor as to who some of the companies are. Now, what I found was interesting. There's 3 points I thought were worth making. One was which industries they come from. So which sectors have the foreign and Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwanese companies had the biggest impact in China. And, well, not a big surprise, cars. So automobiles and auto car parts. So led by VW and GM, but then you've got the car part manufacturer Robert Bosch, and you've got Toyota, you've got BMW, and so on and so forth. So the car companies, they're the biggest, 16 out of the top 100. Number two was consumer goods, like the LVMH group, the luxury group or LVMH, and also a jewelry brand called Zhou Dafu. Actually, it's a Hong Kong-based jewelry brand. And also, second equal, in fact, was healthcare, led by AstraZeneca from the UK and the likes of Johnson & Johnson from the US. And then the fourth one was consumer electronics, so you got the likes of Apple and Samsung and so on and so forth. So these four industries make up half of the total list. Now, which countries do they come from? Which countries are making the biggest contribution to the 100 largest foreign and Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwanese companies. So number one was the US, 36, head and shoulders above anybody else. Japan and the UK equal on second with 14. Germany fourth with 11. France fifth with 7, and so on and so forth. But when you break it down into continent, it was the Europeans that led the way. So by continent, Europe was actually bigger than North America. So that's actually an interesting point as well. But perhaps the most single surprising point of this whole list is the next one. Did you know that the average history that these companies, these top 100 companies have with China is 57 years? Meaning that on average, they came to China in 1967. 19 of them have over 100 years of history with China. I mean, that's just mind-boggling. So you've got the likes of Jardines, came to China in 1832. Standard Chartered came to China in 1858. HSBC, you've got Swires, Siemens, BASF, Nestle. They've all got over 100 years of history with China. So, they've seen the end of the Qing dynasty. They've seen the beginning of modern China. They've seen the Cultural Revolution. They've been through it all and are still here. So that, to me, was one of the most things that really interested me when I was doing this list. So there you go. That's the list. A few little small things one little thing that I think is quite fun is when we were looking at all the annual reports, we found that a lot of companies actually, report very differently and by geographical region. So only 52 out of the 100 report for their China or Greater China sales. And then number 2 was Asia Pacific. That was 16. And then you had Asia Pacific ex-Japan and so on and so on. It got more and more complicated. Then 1 or 2 just said, we just don't break it down by countries at all. So anyway, it gives you an idea. It gives you a flavor. And like all these type of lists, they're designed to stimulate and provoke thought, and also to help identify which companies are really serious and really deeply embedded into the Chinese economy. And it's very much a two-way thing. The Chinese economy gives them profits and growth opportunity, and at the same time, they've also made a significant economic contribution to China as well. So there you have it. Thank you very much for watching, and look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you, and bye-bye.